public sector workers. Where are you going to find the resources to implement all of these lofty ideas?
Kwesi, how did the strong, resilient economy that Nana Akufo-Addo and Bawumia talked about crumble in the space of, let's say, 6 months? I mean, they were waxing lyrical about how strong this economy was and things have never been so good for Ghana. I mean, how come within 6 months of just a coronavirus pandemic, the whole economy has collapsed completely? We are facing the worst economic situation probably in the entire history of, I wouldn't even say probably, in the entire history of the Fourth Republic. The economy has never been this bad. And you see, when you have a hole and you're hiding it, you understand? Eventually, when reality catches up, you will find that that hole will be exposed. There's been a hole in this economy, and I've kept saying it. This is not the first time I'm going to say it. The finance minister, who is the cousin of the president, has been cooking the books since 2017. He has this way of, and it's the first time we're having this strange presentation of budget. Our budget numbers from 1992 to date are the budget numbers for everybody, for Parliament, for the International Donor Organization, for everybody. And those are the numbers that are presented to the world. This finance minister comes and he has liabilities, big ones. Instead of calculating them and putting them in the budget, he brings them to the bottom and puts them at footnotes. And so he doesn't factor them in the budget. And so he can give you a deficit number that looks good. He can give you a debt to GDP ratio that looks good. You know, he can give you, all his other fiscal statistics that look good. But as soon as you add the liabilities, one was the financial sector clean out, and two is the energy sector debt. The energy sector debt, today he owes the independent power producers alone $1.5 billion. $1.5 billion. Those are the figures he's now put in the budget that are showing the kinds of numbers that are, and so he's been engaged in subterfuge. And sometimes very criminal subterfuge. I'll give you another example. In 2019, they didn't meet the domestic revenue target. You know what Oforiatta did? He made GRA go and borrow money from commercial banks and presented it and said, we met the revenue target. So when coronavirus struck, the commercial banks have been deducting the loan that they gave to show good figures for 2019. That is why the economy is worse than it is, because any revenue that comes, the commercial banks are taking their money back. And so some of these things have been very criminal, and I'm surprised that Professor Ade, as chairman of GRA, could connive to do something as criminal as this. The president knows about it. He's done nothing about it, And so yes, the economy is in a bad state. We handed him a much better economy. Growth had been projected at 8% for 2017. They had nothing to do with that growth. It had been projected. World Bank, IMF had all said that in 2018 the economy was going to grow at 8% because of the work that we had done in 2017, because of the work that we had done in 2016. I left him $300 million in the stabilization fund for a day such as this when Corona struck. And the stabilization fund is used to ameliorate economic shocks. And so I left him $300 million in that fund. I left him $270 million in the sinking fund, so that when the COFOR Eurobond became due, there will be money to pay for it. I left him $270 million in the Ghana Infrastructure Investments Fund. I left him 2 new oil fields, revenue from 2 new oil fields. All the development of infrastructure that I did in this country in my 4 years as president was with only the Jubilee field, 1 oil field. And even then, 1 oil field, there was a problem with the FPSO turret, and so they had to reduce production. And so he's got 5 times more oil revenue in his period than I got, but what is there to show for it? Virtually nothing. And look at the kind of figures you're talking about. Debt service and wages are more than 143% of domestic revenue. How could this have happened? It couldn't have happened overnight. So it means that they were criminally, hiding the true state of the economy from Ghanaians. And then coronavirus comes and they suddenly say, oh, this is the state of the economy is in a mess. But how did we end here? You said yet Sika so come there. Where is the Sika? Are we not still sitting on that money? Where is the gold? And the worst thing is that you kind of try to surreptitiously, take our gold royalties, get your family to get involved and set up some company in a tax haven and mortgage our gold royalties for the next 15 years for $500 million. And I've said that they've created a vortex, and the vortex is swallowing money like anything. If that 500 million had come, it wouldn't have done anything. We won't get anything tangible for it. It would have just been swallowed in his dead vortex. It's time to get him out. Get all the, level-headed people in this country to sit around the economy and fix it. I faced a problem with the economy as a result of the single spine. The single spine was inherited from the Kufuor administration, and President Mills, started to deal with it. At the time, Governor Dufour was the finance minister. And so we did the negotiations until 2012. And then 2012, we started paying the single spine plus the arrears. And so in 2012, we were spending more than 73% of total revenue on wages and compensation alone, and had only 27% of revenue left for everything, goods and services, capital expenditure, everything, And so we've been faced with something like that before. What did we do? We called the Senchi Forum. You remember Senchi Forum? PV Obing was very active in that. We wanted to achieve consensus behind our economic program. So we invited all the stakeholders. Everybody was there. The only people who refused to attend were the New Patriotic Party. They actually issued a caveat that any of their members who attended will be sanctioned severely. And so some of them had accepted to come, but at the last minute, because of the party sanction, how unpatriotic can you be? So they refused to come. But we held the Senchi Forum. Out of the Senchi Forum came our homegrown fiscal consolidation policy. And eventually that became the basis for our negotiations with the IMF, which led to the program that we went into. Kwesi, by the time we left office in 2016, I'll tell you this, most Ghanaians don't know, we financed the budget from our own revenues. We didn't borrow one CD from the central bank. The first time in Ghana's history. Everything that we financed the budget with in 2016, we did zero central bank financing. This had put the economy on a platform where, if the incoming administration and Ado's administration had taken over with the additional oil revenues and things, we would have just continued fiscal consolidation with growth, and you would have felt the prosperity within the system. Instead, they jettisoned everything and decided to go on their own track. This finance minister, you know what he's interested in? All he's interested in is going on the bond market and borrowing money, because he benefits from it indirectly. His company is at the bottom of borrowing all these euro bonds. He's borrowed $9 billion from the bond market in 4 years. And every bond he floats, Data Bank makes money out of it through proxies and other things, And so this is clearly conflict of interest. The president knows about this, and that's why he says, I'm too old to be corrupt. I'm not going to steal your money, because he knew his relatives would steal the money for him. And that's exactly what's happening. He can go to a plush retirement because of Oyata and Gabi and everybody will look after him. Mamti and Co would all look after him. And so, yes, we have a broken economy, but it's time for the person who broke it to leave so that somebody can come and fix it.